Okay, Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. We are continuing Gemara Berachot, Dav Gimel. I hope you noticed that in our chat, Mr. David Hamelech sent a nice summary, and he had some quiz questions, which is something new. He's never done that before, and it was phenomenal. Except that only one of the quiz questions were even attempted to be answered. I don't know if he's going to continue doing it, but if he is, it's okay. Even if you get the wrong answer, I'm going to make you feel good. So just attempt to put an answer. I think I actually really like that idea because it keeps the juices flowing throughout the week. So B'ezrat Hashem, if you're not in the WhatsApp chat, message me. We'll get you in that chat. And if it's a good update, a good review, and B'ezrat Hashem, it's a good way to get the running start for this year. So let's go. I don't know why you keep asking me. I really don't have access to it. You can ask one of the other.
What is it? That's my job.
He wants the AC on. So okay. So we're continuing on with the Gemara. If you recall, we had our Mishnah talking about the start time of Shema Yisrael in the evening. That was the topic that we had discussed in our Mishnah, the start time and the end time, really, of Shema in the evening. And what did we say? We said that it was the start time was the time that the Kohanim enter, which, what did we say, what time that was? Very good, the time the stars come out. Very good, or nightfall. Then we have the end time of Shema. What is the end time of Shema in the evening? Machloket, very good. The three opinions are? End of the first watch is the opinion of? Rabbi Eliezer, very good. One way you could remember who the first opinion of Shas is, the first opinion starts with an Aleph. Rabbi Eliezer, Aleph. So remember, Rabbi Eliezer is the first opinion of these three. He says until the end of the first watch. The second opinion? Al-Chatzot, who's the Chachamim. And the third opinion is? Ad she'aleh amud hashachar, until dawn. Uh-oh, I heard a sound. Until dawn. Now, if you recall, our Mishnah told us, according to Rabbi Eliezer, the end time of Shema is the end of the first Mishmar, or ashmurot, ashmurah rishonah, ashmurah, which means the first watch or the first shift. So then we went deep in this idea of what are these shifts, what are these watches? Do you remember we said there are shifts in Shamayim, there are shifts on earth. The shifts on earth, we started speaking about when the markers were. The end of the first one is when the donkey braids. It's a Machloket when the second one and the third one is, but let's say, according to the last opinion, the end of the second one is the dogs howling. And the end of the last one is Isha Misaferitin Ba'alav, exactly. A man and woman, they speak, and the mom nurses the child. And it goes through that entire thing. So we're speaking about these ashmurot. And then we said not only are there things happening in this world, there's also things happening in Shamayim. That's the time that the angels are doing their different shifts. And at the end of every shift, Ribono Shel Olam, what does he do?
Roaring like a lion.
He roars like a lion. And he says, Oy lahem, and he says, woe to me that I had to destroy my Beit HaMikdash. Then we had another incident where there was a rabbi, his name was Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi, he went into one of the Chorvot of Yerushalayim, one of the ruins in Jerusalem. And as he went in, all of a sudden he sees Eliyahu Navi standing there. Eliyahu Navi says, Shalom Alecha Rabbi, and he says, Shalom Alecha Rabbi Umari. And he says, tell me, what'd you hear in there? And he says, I heard Hashem cooing like a pigeon, like a dove. So not just roaring like a lion, but also there is this sighing of crying like a bird, and again crying at this time when he was there. And Eliyahu Navi told him that it's not the only time; it happens 3 times. It happens 3 times every single day where Ribono Shel Olam is crying. So we're talking about these ashmurot. So far, if I asked you how many watches are there in the evening, what would you say? 3. The Gemara very clearly is telling us that there are 3 times Hashem is crying like a lion, roaring like a lion. There are 3 times that he's crying like a cooing like a dove. There are 3 signs in this world. It's all 3, 3, 3. Except there's a Machloket. There's a one opinion that says 4. So now what we're going to do is we're going to see what the one opinion says. There's 3 ashmurot. One opinion says 4 ashmurot. Let me ask you, how many hours are there in the evening? 12. If there are 3 ashmurot, that means there are 4 hours per ashmurot. Very good. If there are 4 ashmurot, there are 3 hours. Very basic math. Let's go ahead and see the Gemara, okay? Let's share screen and let's share screen. Let's go. Okay. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita, or here they write it's a Tosefta, but it's a form of a Braita. Arba mishmarot heve halayla.
Should we say what they
Oh yeah, we should. Where is it in the article?
3B1.
Three.
Right side column.
Very good. You got that? 3B1, middle right side column is what you said. Very good. Okay, here we go. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a Braita. Arba mishmarot heve halayla. There are 4 mishmarot in the night, even though for the past page we've been saying there are 3. This opinion in the Braita says there are 4. Divrei Rabbi. These are the words. This is the opinion of Rabbi. Who is Rabbi? Rabbi is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He is the author of the Mishnah. Very interesting that in the Mishnah itself, he didn't even get into this topic of are there 3 or are there 4. He didn't even go into it. In our Mishnah, he just said the end of the first watch. But here, Rabbi is saying that there are 4 watches or 4 shifts, if you will, and then Rabbi Natan Omer Shalosh. There are 3. So according to Rabbi, there are 4, which means how long is each one? 3 hours. And according to Rabbi Natan, there are 3, which means each one is 4 hours. Who else is according to the opinion of Rabbi Natan? Also Rabbi Eliezer and also Rav, which is what we've been doing up until now, that there are 3. Okay. Now we want.
Say Eliyahu Hanavi is also his opinion.
Yes, that entire flow matches. Very good. So yeah, I guess Rabbi Yehuda and Nasi could that story with the Rabbi Yosef and Eliyahu Hanavi saying 3. That's in line with Rav who said 3. Very good. Fine. Now let's see why each one says what he says. This is what he's going to do, and now I want you to start thinking of in the way of the Talmud. Number 1, each one is going to bring a pasuk from Tanakh. From Tehillim. All right, no, just from Tanakh. There's going to be a pasuk from Tanakh that based on that, the word is going to be used ashmurot in the text. And based on that, we're going to try to infer if there are 2 or there are 3. And then when each opinion says his own source, the other one has to explain why the other guy's proof is not good for him. So there's 2 opinions. Each one's going to bring a pasuk, and then each one has to refute the other one's proof. You get it? Okay, so we're going to quote a pasuk for the first opinion and then give the rebuttal of the other opinion. Then quote the second pasuk of the second opinion and then give the first opinion's rebuttal. Let's see it. My Ta'amad Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Natan, who says there are 3, what is his reasoning? Dichtiv, as it says in Shofetim, in the book of Judges. We're talking about the time when they were going to war. Vayavo Gidon, who was the army, the military general, the leader. Ish asher ito. Gidon came together with 100 men. Biksei hamachaneh, at the edge of the camp. Rosh ha'ashmurot hatichona. What time did they start their battle? Their ambush? They're going out to war at the beginning of the tichona, which is the middle ashmurot. Oh, Rabbi Natan says, when did the war? This pasuk in Shoftim just uses the word ashmurot. They are going out to war in the middle of the night, and it says they went out to war in the middle of the beginning of the middle ashmurot. Tana, so he explains, this opinion explains, in order for it to be tichona, which means the middle, what does that mean? There has to be an odd number. And over here, the whole discussion is either 3 or 4. So that's his proof of there being 3. Because there's 2 opinions. Either there's 3 or 4. What's his proof that there's 3? Since it calls it the middle. Did anyone here a middle child? Yeah, I'm sure we have to have a middle child. So to say, oh, you have a middle child. So anyone, what?
Middle child.
Yeah. So if there are 4 kids, is there a middle child?
No.
Are you considered a middle child? So you're saying yes. Okay, so according to Rabbi Natan, you're not a middle child because a middle child has to be 1 before, 1 after. But that's going to be Rebbe's Rebbe's rebuttal. And Rabbi, what does Rabbi say? My tichona. What is in this text when it says tichona? Achat min hatichona shebetichonot. It's one of the 2 middles. They went to war at the beginning of the middle watch, which is the middle watch. There are 4 watches, so it's the beginning of one of those 2. I don't know which one, but it's the one of the 2 in the middle. So then there could be 2 middle childs. Gabriel is saying how he's a middle child, even though there are 4 boys. He says he's a middle child. The same thing. This is what Rebbe says. Gidon went to war at the beginning of the middle watch. So Rabbi Natan says, if it's the middle, that means there must be an odd number. So it's got to be 3. Rabbi says, no, it's one of the two. It's either the beginning of the second or the third watch. So that was Rabbi's rebuttal. Rabbi Natan, but now here's Rabbi Natan's rebuttal to his rebuttal. Does it say that he went to war in the one of the two middles? What does it say? Tichona ketiv. It says the middle. There is only one middle child. There's only one middle ashmurot. You can't share that position. So again, they're just going back and forth on the source of how you know there's 3. It calls it the beginning of the middle watch by virtue of the fact there's a middle watch. One opinion says that must mean that there's only 3. The other one says no, it's okay. There's 2 middles, and it's the middle. They went toward the beginning of one of those middle watches. Now let's see the opposite opinion, and I'll show you a chart. My ta'amed de Rabbi. What is Rabbi's reasoning? Remember, what did Rabbi say? How many watches are there? 4. Very good. So let's see what pasuk he quotes to us. Amar Rabbi Zerika. Now I want you to pay very close attention to what we're about to do, the names, because we're going to come back to that. Amar Rabbi Zerika. Rabbi Zerika said, Amar Rabbi Ami, quoting another rabbi named Rabbi Ami. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, quoting a third rabbi named Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. You see this chain? What is the reasoning of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi? Oh, I'll tell you. Rabbi Zerika said something, quoting Rabbi Ameh, who quoting Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi. What did he say? What did he say at the end of the day? What did he say? He says, Katuv echad omer. It says in one pasuk of Tehillim, it says, Chatzot laila akum lehodot lach al mishpetei tzidkecha. This is a pasuk from David Hamelech in Tehillim. He says, Chatzot laila. What does Chatzot laila mean? The middle of the night. Or if you had to put that in one word for me, midnight. Chatzot laila, midnight. Akum, I will wake up, I will get up. Or I get up, lehodot lach, God, to praise you, to thank you, on your righteous laws. Hashem, this is David Hamelech saying, I get up at midnight. Okay, so what time does David Hamelech wake up? Midnight. So far, we haven't said anything about how many ashmurot there are, but watch this. V'katuv echad omer, and there's another pasuk in the same chapter of Tehillim that says the following: Kidmu einai ashmurot. My eyes wake up before ashmurot, before watches, plural. Haketzad, how could it be that he's getting up at midnight and he's also waking up before ashmurot, which is plural, which means 2 watches? How is that possible? You have 2 before, 2 after midnight, which means there are 4. Arba mishmerot haveh alayla. Simple math is what Rabbi Zerika quotes Rabbi Ameh, quoting Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi to explain the opinion of Rabbi. So why there are 4? You see, in one pasuk, David Hamelech says, I get up at midnight. And the same chapter, he says, I get up before two watches. Or before watches, plural. Which means that there has to be 2 of them. Because that's the plural. Okay, so you're saying he gets up, goes to sleep, wakes up. So okay, so you're saying, okay, very good question. So let's see what Rabbi Natan's rejection is. Because Rabbi Natan, and actually Gemara gives some nice rejections. Rabbi Natan Savarla, Rabbi Natan says the following. Rabbi Natan Savarla Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Natan says, you don't even have to go there. Because then you have to make an assumption that David Hamelech goes to sleep, wakes up, goes to sleep, wakes up. You have to make that assumption. But he's saying, I can make it even easier. I can make it even easier that he wakes up at midnight. And still it fits. How does it fit? Savar leik Rabbi Yoshua. He holds in accordance to what we're going to learn from Rabbi Yoshua. Did not. We're going to learn in our next Mishnah. It's coming up in Machloket Berachot, our next Mishnah. We're going to learn in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yoshua Omer, at shalosh shaot. I'm going to give you now a preview. The preview is, right now we've all been talking about the Shema Yisrael of the night. The next Mishnah is going to talk about the Shema Yisrael of the morning. And it's going to tell us what is the earliest time of Shema and what is the latest time of Shema. Okay? Now, what is the pasuk that tells you have to say Shema Yisrael? The times, you said it. What is it? Loud. B'shochbecha uvkumecha. When you're lying down and when you get up. So when you get up, the question is, you have to say Shema when you're getting up. How do you define the time of getting up? Look what Rabbi Yeshua's opinion says. Rabbi Yeshua says, you can say Shema up until the 3rd hour of the day. What does the third hour of the day mean? You take the day, split it into 12 hours. Third hour of the day is the first quarter, right? Because 3, 6, 9, and 12, right? You're following the concept of hours of the day. Okay, so Rabbi Yeshua says you could say Shema until the third hour of the day. What? Who gets up that late? Now, probably 90% of this room, but ain't myself included, because right now this is like what time? Like 4 o'clock. So but the Rabbi Yeshua is saying that's not the time people get up. People get up at sunrise. What are you giving me up until the third hour of the day? I'll tell you why. Sheken derech melachim la'amod b'shalosh shaot. Because the kings wake up at the end of the third hour. The kings wait until 3 hours to wake up, or in the third hour. So since kings are waking up in the third hour, and this is what the way Rashi explains is like they're waking up from the beginning of the third hour to the end of the third hour. Okay? Shit de Lelia. Now this is how Rabbi Natan is going to defend himself. Remember, Rabbi Natan wants to say that there are only 3 ashmurot in the night. So what do you have to do? You have to say if there are 3 ashmurot in the night, how many ashmurot are there after midnight, according to Rabbi Natan? There's only 1, or there's really 1.5, right? Because it's the first third, second third, and third third. So if he's waking up at midnight, so you really have 1.5. So that's 6 hours. Shit de Lelia, 6 hours of the night. V'tarte di'amama, and 2 hours of the daytime. Havu lehu shte mishmarot. That is 2 mishmarot. So now you have to change what David Hamelech is saying. David Hamelech is saying, remember what Rabbi wanted to say. Rabbi wanted to say, I wake up at midnight, which is before 2 ashmurot. Oh, it sounds like there's got to be 2 more ashmurot in the night, which means there got to be 4 in the whole night, right? No, you're missing one word. I wake up at midnight, which is a full 2 ashmurot before the other kings of the world who sleep 2 hours into the day. Or 3 hours into the day, really. So now what he's saying is, there are 3 breaks in the night, but I am waking up 2 full mishmarot, which is a 4-hour unit. I'm waking up before the other kings are waking up, and they are sleeping into the day. You get it? So now let me show this to you in a chart. In Zechut of Mr. Kevin, we're putting this on Google Sheets, and you actually have the link. I already put the link in the chat. So now look at this. Ready? Wow, this is beautiful. Tonight I went with the green color. I don't know why, but I did it. Okay? How many ashmurot or nightly watches shifts are there? Okay? Opinion? Rabbi Eliezer, Rav, and Rabbi Natan, they tell us 3. And Rabbi, which is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, tells us 4. So now here's going to be the source, and here's going to be the rejection. The source of Tanakh, of why do you know 3? Oh, I see some squirrel just entered into the chat, anonymous squirrel. Okay, whoever you are, just don't, no, okay, fine. So don't make any edits. So this opinion that says 3, says there's a source in Shoftim that says the middle watch. Remember, it's the beginning of the middle watch. So if it's the middle watch, it must be an odd number to have a middle. So there must be 3. The other opinion's rejection. It says no, middle can mean one of the 2 middle ones. Okay, so that's the first source. You have 3 segments in the night because the pasuk says there's a middle segment, and the other one says no, there's 2 middle segments, but it could be referring to either one of them. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says there are 4 ashmurot in the night. Well, what's his proof that there are 4? Because he takes 2 psukim from David Hamelech in the same chapter, Kuf Yutet, 119, and he says, I need to get these 2 to work together. Quote number 1, at midnight I arise. Okay, we got a bunch of animals coming in here. We got a buffalo, we got a chinchilla. I don't know who's a chinchilla. I don't even know what that is. At midnight I arise. I wake up at midnight. The second pasuk is, my eyes preceded the watches. Kidmu einai ashmurot. My eyes woke up before the watches. There must be at least 2 watches after midnight. That's the conclusion that we come here. Okay? So you need to have at least 2 watches. So the way the other rejection is no. The watch, quote, is a 4-hour unit. And David wakes up at midnight, which is at least 4 hours before the other kings, because the kings are getting up in the 3rd hour. You get it? So you have 6 hours of the night plus 2 hours of the day. That's 2 ashmurot. It's not the night it's already the daytime because the kings are still sleeping into the day. Whereas David Hamelech says, I get up a full 2 ashmurot before other kings. Okay, there's going to be one more answer, and then I'll pass for questions. You might have already. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Rabbi is Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He's saying there's 4 watches, correct? If the rejection is saying 4-hour units, so it means there's 12. Okay.
That's his rejection. So this is the opinion of Rabbi Natan.
Okay.
Rabbi Natan says, remember, there are only 3.
Right, so
Okay, if there are only 3, how do you explain David Hamelech? David Hamelech says, I get up at midnight, and he says, I wake up ashmurot before I wake up ashmurot. I wake up before ashmurot. What are you talking about? You're telling me that there are only 3 ashmurot in the night. If you were to wake up before 2 ashmurot, he'd have to wake up not at midnight. He'd have to wake up after a third of the night, not halfway through the night. There's only 6 hours left. According to you, each ashmuret is 4 hours, so it's only an ashmurot and a half, 1.5. Why are you saying ashmurot plural 2? So he says because there's 2 more hours in the day that other kings are still sleeping, that he's awake. So it's relative to the other kings that are sleeping really up until the 3rd hour. Into the 3rd hour, it ends up being 8 hours ahead. Right? Good? Now, let's just finish this and then we'll pause for questions. Because you have the opinion of Rav Asher, which is also a very good answer.
Rabbi, you can send us the chart.
I already did. That's how you have the squirrel in there. It's in the chat. No problem. Rav Asher Amar. Rav Asher says, Mishmara upalga nami mishmarot karula lehu. What he's saying is that a mishmara upalga 1.5 is also called plural watches. Remember what happened? He says, I woke up at midnight. I woke up before ashmurot. Okay, ashmurot is more than 1. How much is he waking up? An ashmurot and a half, 1.5. So that's what he says. Palga mishmara upalga 1.5. Nami mishmarot karilu. You could call that plural also. So if you go back to my chart, that's the second opinion, that watches can also mean 1.5 hours, which is the 6 hours. Okay? I'm going to pause here and allow the questions to come through. We're going to be done with this. So we're done between these 2 opinions. So I just want to give some closure to it. Okay? There's 2 opinions. Okay, you know what? Let's do it. Let's just do it. There are 2 opinions about how many ashmurot there are in the night. One opinion is, let's go with the first opinion, is the opinion of Rabbi Natan. Rabbi Natan says how many ashmurot are there? Which means how many hours is each one? 4. Okay, what's his source? The middle watch of Gidon. When we're going to war. Shoftim, book of Shoftim, he says the middle watch. He says if there's a middle watch, by virtue of the fact that it says the middle watch, that must mean, as Elon said, that means there is an odd number of watches. So that must mean there's 3. So that's my proof of 3. This is the middle watch. What is Rabbi's rebuttal of that proof? Don't bring me a proof from that. Why? Okay, there's 4 mishmarot, and when it says the middle watch, it means one of the 2 middle ones. Rabbi Natan's response, it doesn't say one of the 2 middles. It says the middle. Okay, so that's the debate over there. Now let's go to Rabbi Nasi. Rabbi Nasi tells us how many watches are there in the night, which means each one is how long? 3 hours. Very good. What's his proof? David Hamelech. What does David Hamelech say in line 1? I get up at midnight. Very good. What does he say in line 2? My eyes precede the watches. My eyes precede multiple, plural, mishmarot, shifts. So you say, okay, how is it possible that he's getting up at midnight and he's also waking up before 2 shifts? It must be there are 4 shifts in the night. Because midnight. No. If you do that, then that's the rejection. Rabbi Nasi wants to prove that there are 4 watches. And look at my hands. 4 watches. If you get up in the middle and you're waking up before 2, that's my proof that there are 2. If there were only 3 and I wake up in the middle, then you wouldn't have 2 anymore. You would have 1.5. Okay? So what does Rabbi Natan respond? So one of them is what? According to Rabbi Natan, the first one, let's go from a night that's from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. David Hamelech is saying he wakes up at 12 a.m. So 12 a.m. to 2 a.m. is the second half of the middle one. and then 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. is the last. So if you're going to tell me that there's 3 mishmarot, we have a problem, because David Hamelech says I wake up before mishmarot, but you don't have mishmarot if you say there's 3. There's got to be 4. Okay, so what are the rejections? Go ahead. There's 2 rejections. It's not too much info. Well, it is. It's a lot of info, but I'll tell you like this. There's a 8:05 minyan. Actually, no. There's a 9 a.m. minyan. You go to the 8:05, right? There's a Baruch Hashem in this building. There's a 7 a.m. minyan, a 7:45. Then we have 8:15. Then shout out to Tony Aziz. There's an 8:35. They just started another one. And then there's a 9 a.m. So when Rabbi Chaim talks about it, he says the 9 a.m. is like the Bnei Melachim. They get to sleep in until 9 a.m. They sleep in until the 3rd hour of the day.
You used to say that about 8:05.
Yeah, I know. I've heard him say it about 8:05, and I think now the Melachim have become even more luxurious. They're sleeping in an extra hour, and then they're here and they're having breakfast until 11. I don't know how it works. I don't know how it works. Baruch Hashem, they can do it. And the breakfast is good, so I don't blame them for staying. Okay, so just for a second, you have to say there's a shipment from Bagel Mensch comes in. As soon as the Bagel Mensch guy pulls back, the Dunkin' Donuts guy comes in, and then it's like, okay, Baruch Hashem, this is the building. If you haven't been here for Shacharit, be prepared to gain some weight by coming here in the mornings. Okay, so now let's go back. So this is his rejection, right? Rabbi Danas, he says, I got up at midnight before 2 watches, 2 before, 2 after, there's 4 total. The rejection is no. Well, as Daniel Koren said, there's only 3, which means he's getting up at 12. So you have 2 hours of the second watch, plus 4 hours of the third watch, plus 2 more hours of the daytime, gets you a total of 8 hours. Why are you including the daytime? Because the kings are sleeping into the 3rd hour of the day. So David Hamelech, remember, he was a king, and he's comparing himself to the other kings. And he's saying, I'm getting up 2 full mishmarot compared to all the other colleagues of mine. I'm getting up 2 ashmurot before them. That's one answer. Or the other answer is, you're right. He's getting up the first half, there's a half of the second, plus another mishmar. He's getting up a mishmar and a half. That's all that's left in the middle of the night, right? Because if there's 3 mishmarot in the night, he gets up at midnight, there's a mishmar and a half left. But what does it say in the pasuk? I get up before watches. 1.5 is considered plural watches. So those are the rejections. That's how you have the proof. The reason it's important to be able to do this is because the back and forth of the Gemara. I'll tell you like this. There's a Gemara, I forgot the source, but there's a Gemara that says how, there's some Rabbanim that in order to see if they could get smicha, to teach them, to see if they could be a rabbi, to see if they could be someone for a keilah, is they ask them to prove things that are incorrect from the Torah. Prove to me that this, when it's against the Torah. But it's important to be able to have the way to think of all sides. Why? Because if you're going to be a judge on a case, you can't have blind sides. You have to be able to see everything. So you have to be able to see both sides of the argument. If you sit here in the class with Gemara, and afterwards you say, you know what? I'm a big Rabbi Natan guy. I think Rabbi Danas is learning it wrong. I don't even understand what he's saying, but it's fine because I'm on the Rabbi Natan team. There's something that you're missing, because as part of our studying the Talmud, we have to be able to understand both opinions and follow each one down to each proof, down to the rebuttals of the proof, down to the rebuttals of the rebuttals. You have to be able to put yourself in both lines. That's in the world of when you're studying Talmud. You could obviously, when it comes to halacha, you could say, okay, this one is what we hold by. Not you. I'm saying we pick one. But when you're understanding the opinions, you have to be able to put yourself in the minds of each one and go down the paths. Okay? Yes.
Isn't that whole concept of Talmud is that even Rabbi Nasi and all the Rabbanim are really bringing information based on what they learned. It's also their information that they're getting.
Okay, very good. So there is an important question that you're raising is, look, is this all coming from they just read a pasuk in Tanakh and they said, 2, 3, 4? No, there is, as you're saying, there was a tradition. They each learned from their rabbis, and there's different opinions, and these different opinions existed. And they each have a source that they're able to find in Tanakh, but that source is not ironclad, which is why these 2 opinions existed. You don't necessarily have to think that one of them was learning this pasuk in Tanakh and said it must be. there is this question of sometimes like which came first. Did he learn his opinion from the pasuk, or did he have his opinion and he found the pasuk to support him? I would say there's going to be different times, different situations where sometimes they're learning it out from the pasuk, sometimes not. In this case, it doesn't necessarily have to be, but it can be. Okay, all right, let's keep going. Pin myself. Oh.
That question, is it like something that was like that's not the motion in Sinai? Like, is it clear cut whether there's 4 hours or 3 hours?
It's okay. So your question is very interesting. Now, my question for you is the following. Why does it matter? Why does it matter if there's 3 mishmarot or 4 mishmarot in the night? Well, one of the reasons it would matter is if the Shema Yisrael goes until the end of the 3rd watch. However, that's only one opinion, Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer is the one that even invokes this concept when he says the end of Shema is the end of the 1st watch. But we know his opinion is that there's 3 watches in the night. So it's not that, well, if you all like Rabbi, now you get less time. Because according to Rabbi, you're allowed to say Shema until Chatzot regardless. So really, the truth is, according to Chachamim and according to Rabbi Nasi and according to the other Tanaim, it doesn't matter if there are 3 or 4. With respect to Shema Yisrael, it doesn't matter. It's only according to Rabbi Eliezer. He says you say Shema until the end of the 1st watch, and he's telling you he holds that there's 3 watches a night, which means the end of the 4th hour. Okay, let's keep going. Yes, question?
Wouldn't it just be easier to say he didn't mean literally chatzot? You just mean I woke up in the middle of the night.
Very good question. So you could sort of discount his statement by saying
It's like poetry.
he didn't necessarily get up every night at the strike of midnight. So that's actually a great segue. What time is it? 9:06. So there's going to be a segue that I just have to hold on to that, and we're actually going to discuss what time David Hamelech gets up. Okay, and there actually is another pasuk that seems to say he gets up at another time. So that's a very good point. So Kevin's raising the point that maybe he didn't get up at midnight on the dot. You know, maybe he got up maybe he's saying I got up in the middle of the night, and then you could say he got up even earlier. So let's park that because we're going to come back to that. Okay, let's go. Let's continue. Share screen. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry, just to be clear, we're concluding that there are 3 shows.
No, it's a machloket if there are 3 or 4 mishmarot.
Also not concluding it.
In this discussion of there are 3 mishmarot and 4 mishmarot, it's a machloket. However, the author of our Mishnah, Rabbi Eliezer, who says that the end time of Shema is until the end of the 1st watch, he holds that there are 3 mishmarot in the night. That we've concluded. The Braita told us explicitly. So, with respect to the law of Shema Yisrael, we've concluded that according to the first opinion, there's 3 mishmarot in the night. There could be other discussions elsewhere, but here, for Shema Yisrael, we're concluding that Rabbi Eliezer, who says you can say Shema until the end of the 1st watch, he holds there's 3 watches, which means until the end of the 4th hour. Okay? Here we go. Let's go. Do you remember the name of the rabbi who explained to us the opinion of Rabbi Nasi? My Ta'ameh de Rabbi, I scrolled up a couple lines. Amar Rabbi Zerika, Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Okay? See that? Rabbi Zerika quoted Rabbi Ami, who quoted Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Good. Why is that important? Because welcome to the world of tangents in the Gemara. Up until now, we've been going on some crazy roads that you think might have nothing to do with Shema Yisrael, but they're all connected. Talking about this Rabbi Yosef who went into a thing and met Eliyahu Navi, at the end of the day, was connected because Eliyahu Navi told him that Hashem is crying 3 times a night because there are 3 ashmurot, like it says in our Mishnah. It's all connected. I am now going to show you the next line of the Gemara, which has 0 connection, and I dare you to try to find one. The only connection is this chain of Rabbanim. Rabbi Zereka quoted Rabbi Ami, who quoted Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, saying something in our context. And as we're saying that, we're saying, oh, time out. By the way, Rabbi Zereka quoted Rabbi Ami, quoted Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, who said something else that has nothing to do with anything. But now's a good time to mention it because you mentioned those rabbi chains. So I'm going to mention another statement of the rabbi chain. So what else did Rabbi Zereka say in the name of Rabbi Ami, who said in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi? Okay, I'm just giving you that context because this is going to be completely unrelated except for the fact of who said it. Amar Rabbi Zereka, Amar Rabbi Ami, Amar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. That chain of Rabbanim said, "En omrin bifnei hamet, ela divarav shel met." I will explain this, and I'm going to give you a story that I have. En omrin bifnei hamet, ela divarav shel met. When someone is at a cherusha, when someone is a bit kvura, at a cemetery, and there is the met there, the dead, the person who passed away, the corpse, whether they're buried or they're not buried yet, either way, here's what this Rabbi Zereka, in the name of Rabbi Ami, in the name of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi taught us. You could not speak about anything other than the matters of the burial, the matters of the dead. That's it. You shouldn't be talking about the weather. You shouldn't be talking about the news. You shouldn't even be speaking about Divrei Torah. Nothing. What do you speak about? Sorchei Hamet. That's it. You just speak about taking care of the burial. Please pass the shovel. Please take care of this. Take care of the family. Very good. Very good. Why? Because this is according to different things. We don't need to go all the way there. His halacha is, but as Rama is telling us, because the neshama is there. And look, I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you a story with Mr. Louis Abrani, who is very much involved with the levayat. I remember I was once at a levayah. I was once at a burial, and there was the men. If you've been at one, the men, even the ladies, but usually the men of the community will take the shovels, they'll take the dirt, and they try to cover the met themselves. Sometimes there just aren't enough people there, and so once they cover a full layer, then they ask for the workers to come to finish it up. Sometimes not, but ideally, Yehudim are going to be involved from beginning to end. I remember once, as this was happening, I was standing there, and someone went up to Louis Abrani asking him a question about community matters. You know, he used to be on Central Court, he's involved in community, and I remember him saying, he's like, listen, while we're here, our focus is the Met, nothing else. If you want to speak about the Met, speak about the Met. If not, nothing. Right now, this is our focus. And I remember like it stood out at me. Now we're gonna see how halacha might even be allowed, because we're gonna see it right now. This is the exact topic, okay? But this, in my mind, this entire Gemara, I just think of Louis Abrani teaching it to me. This is the way I see it in my mind. Okay, this is how I have it. When you're in front of the dead, you only speak about matters of the dead. That's it. Yes.
Is it like only about pass the shovel or saying the things like?
Okay. Next line. Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana. Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana says, Lo amran ela b'divrei Torah. This limitation that you should only speak about the person is when it comes to Divrei Torah, which means do not speak about Divrei Torah unless. Okay, what happened? Okay, it's something you guys running to. Okay, you get the recording. Oh, the siyum, of course. Wait, what? Okay.
Tomorrow.
That's tomorrow night.
The siyum tonight also.
Okay. Enjoy. So Amar Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana, Lo Amran Ela B'Divrei Torah. This limitation that you shouldn't speak about anything other than focus on the dead is only within Torah. Aval mili de'alma, but not secular matters, other matters, leit lamba, there's no issue. So now, hold on a second. Rabbi Abba is like shifting it all together.
That's not what you're saying.
It's not what I was saying at all. Rabbi Abba is shifting this to what Rama was saying, almost. What Rabbi Abba is telling us? Rabbi Abba is saying, imagine there's a person who just died, and you come and you start speaking about the mitzvah of tefillin. The way Rashi explains it, it's loeg larash. It's humiliating someone that can't do the mitzvah anymore. Here, I'm going to speak about tefillin. You can't do the mitzvah anymore. I can, you can't. Oh, mitzvah tzitzit, I can wear it, you can't. Oh, Shabbat's coming, we're going to go do kiddushun. I can, you can't. It's a different angle completely. The first way we explained it is how you should be focused on your mitzvah of burying the dead. The second one is, if you start mentioning mitzvot that the dead cannot perform, it's humiliating the dead. Okay? Now,
but then it goes on to say.
What is it?
Then it goes on to say you
can. And there's no issue speaking about weather, because when you speak about weather, it's not humiliating the dead because it has nothing to do with it. When I say the mitzvah of tefillin and he can't do it, that's like, you're putting me through pain because I can't do the mitzvah. When you want to speak about the weather, okay, speak about the weather. It doesn't bother me. That's what Rabbi Abba says. Now look at this. Ika de Amri. There are some that actually have this second statement of Rabbi Abba in a separate angle that's actually making it even worse. Amar Rabbi Abba bar Kahana lo amran ela afilu b'divrei Torah. You shouldn't speak about other matters, even if it's Torah. The kol sheken mili de'ama. All the more so the nonsense or the secular matters. So here's how if I had to, I didn't make a chart, but if I make a chart, this is how I would do it. You have a statement on the top that says, do not speak about anything other than related to the burial, related to the person. Now, the two branches of that, there's two opinions of qualifying that statement. Either that's only related to Torah things. So Torah things you shouldn't say in front of him, but you can speak about other stuff. But the other one is that's even Torah things, for sure non-related things that are completely unrelated, you shouldn't speak about it. Now, which one is the halacha? It seems like the halacha is as follows. The halacha is strict halacha. It's only about Divrei Torah. Which means the strict halacha, what ends up happening is that you really should not speak Divrei Torah in front of the dead, because it's lo'eg larash. It's almost like painful to the soul. The soul cannot fulfill the mitzvot anymore. The other matters you would be technically allowed to. However,
better not.
It's still very inappropriate. So that's why when I go back to the Louis Abrani halacha, din, you might be allowed to. So if two people are on the side and they have some important conversation, they're technically allowed to, but it's not appropriate. When you're there, you should be focused on the met. There's one more thing I want to say. Just because I had this experience.
Guys at the burial.
Very good. So
everything's from Hashem. This is Torah.
Very good. So Andy's raising a good point. Andy's saying there are times where people speak Divrei Torah at a burial. Is that a problem? Because now we're saying you shouldn't speak about anything related, and that's unless it has to do with the dead person. You shouldn't even speak about Divrei Torah either. So the way Shulchan Aruch explains it is that if you're doing it and speaking about the honor of the person who passed away, then it's allowed. If you're saying this person was a tzaddik because this person gave tzedakah, then it's not that you're humiliating him by saying you can't do the mitzvah tzedakah anymore. It's the opposite. You're honoring him. So this is what halacha Shulchan Aruch says. So you will be shalom nida. If someone is ever there and they're saying the Divrei Torah, if it's about the person, it's allowed. If a person wants to start giving a shiur on the mitzvah of Shabbat and start saying everyone should keep Shabbat, it's actually not appropriate. The focus should be this person did the mitzvah of tzedakah, this person did the mitzvah of Shabbat, this person did the mitzvah of Nachnasat Rachim, because it's related to the dead. Make sense? Okay, tangent over. We're gonna close this off. Get back to our subject. So this is the flow of Gemara. You quoted the rabbi. By the way, I just have to tell you firsthand, this happens a lot. Let's say there is a rabbi who there is famous for a certain opinion, a certain statement, a certain rule that he says, and as we're in class with Rabbi Ben Chaim, the name of the rabbi comes up, 90% of the time, he's going to quote this famous ruling of the rabbi. You get what I'm saying? So let's say there's a rabbi that, the most important thing that he said, the most thing that he fought for, there's a certain statement. If the rabbi's name comes up in passing, Rabbi Ben Chaim for sure is going to say, which rabbi this is. This is the rabbi who did that. So that's exactly the flow of the Gemara. You have the statement of the Gemara, and as you're saying it, there's a rabbi that's quoted, Rabbi Zerika, quoting Rabbi Hamelech, quoting Rabbi Shua ben Levi. So there's another famous statement by him. So we said, you know what? Let's bring it in because that's the flow. That's the flow of how you remember. That's the flow of how you think.
The Rabbanim have a photographic memory of everything every rabbi ever said.
Right, Ben Chaim?
Yeah. Can you do it like that?
I think he has a better memory than photographs because photographs can get deleted and wither away, but they can't get withered away.
You can quote stuff from rabbis just like.
Have you ever sat with Rabbi Ben Chaim?
I don't understand.
Rama, what are you doing sitting with me? No, you have to go sit next to him. Go.
Yes.
You're gonna see, even if you don't understand a word that he says, you're gonna realize he has a photographic memory. Yeah. No, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem.
These were Tanaim.
These are Amar Rabbi Zerika, and they're all Amoraim. They're all Amoraim. Rabbi Shua ben Levi is a late Tana actually, but The others are Amr V'Yameh is a Amora. Okay, let's keep going. Now let's get into the question that Kevin opened up for us. David. Anyone here named David? No, we have David Delmani on the Zoom. David bepalga de. Did David really wake up in the middle of the night? By the way, how do you say half or middle in Aramaic? Palga, plug, palga. So palga de lelia means the middle of the night, which is midnight. So with David bepalga de lelia, is that true that David Hamelech wakes up at midnight? Actually, I believe the Gemara is telling us that he would get up as soon as it would become night. Then you have to ask, okay, so when would he sleep? Maybe he would nap during the day. But the Gemara says, are you sure he would wake up at midnight? Because I think he's actually waking up as soon as it becomes night. Why do you think that? Because you have a pasuk in Tehillim, the same chapter. Unbelievable how much goes down in one chapter of Tehillim. I guess this is he's speaking about when he wakes up in this chapter. Okay, what does it say? Dichtiv kidamti baneshef va'ashave'a. I wake up at Neshef and I cry to Hashem. I wake up at Neshef. What is Neshef? So the assumption here is that Neshef means nighttime. So he says, I get up at nighttime and I pray to you. Now, umimai dehai Neshef urtahu. How do you know that the word Neshef means night? Dichtiv, you have another pasuk. This one is from Mishlei. Neshef, at the time of Neshef, be'erev yom, at the end of the day, in the evening of the day, be'ishon laila va'afela, when it becomes dark. So really, the beginning of this line says Neshef be'erev yom, in the Neshef, in the evening. So based on this pasuk, what is Neshef talking about? Morning? No, it's talking about nighttime. David Hamelech says, I get up at Neshef. Does it make sense that he'd be saying that I got up in the morning? It seems like it'd be something else. Based on this pasuk of Mishlei, it says Neshef be'erev yom. By the way, does anyone know the word Neshef from anywhere in the Torah? The word Neshef from anywhere in the Torah. Nun Shin Pei. I'll give you a clue. What? I'll give you a hint. Okay, I could give you a couple hints. I'll tell you hint number one. It's part of the Shacharit prayer every day. Oh, wow. How long did that take you? You got it. Nashafta beruchacha kisam hayam. Very impressive, Ivan. Very good. Well, someone said korbanot. I said you say it every day. I don't know if every day. I'm kidding. No. He said it. He said it already.
Where is Az Yashir?
It's in the Az Yashir. Oh, you didn't say where it is. Okay, it's in the Az Yashir. In the Az Yashir, where it's speaking about what Ribono Shel Olam did to the Mitzrayim, and it says, "Nashafta b'ruchacha," you blew with your wind. Kisam oyam, you cover them with water. Kisam oyam. That's the rest of the pasuk. And then they drown in the deep waters. Okay, Nashafta b'ruchacha means you blew with your wind. The word Neshef is a blowing. Okay, so that's what it means literally. Now we have to understand when you're talking about Neshef of a day, it's the time when something is leaving. The same way the breath left my mouth, so too Neshef Yom is the end of the day. Okay. Neshef means the end of, departing of the day. So this is B'Neshef at the end of the day, B'Erev Yom, at the beginning of the night, the evening of the night, of the day. Yes.
The language in the pasuk of Mishlei, it says Ba'afela, meaning like darkness. So how could you say that Neshef is talking at the beginning of the night if the pasuk implies that it's like really dark?
Okay, very, very good. So the proof, very good. The proof is coming from the first three words, really. B'Neshef be'erev yom. At the time of Neshef, which is the evening of the day, which means the erev yom is the end of the day. Be'ishon laila ba'afela, deep in the night. So the way the pasuk is saying is the pasuk is really describing two time periods: the beginning of the night, the middle of the night. That's the pasuk in Mishlei. Okay, so don't get too bogged down by this. Now we're just trying to find out what time was on David Hamelech's alarm clock. Okay, so we want to know what time he would wake up. In one pasuk he says chatzot. In the other pasuk he says, I got up at Neshef. What is Neshef? Well, based on the pasuk of Mishnah, it sounds like at the beginning of the night. So he got up in the beginning of the night, or he got up at midnight? Yeah, question?
Why can't you get up at different times?
Why can't he get up at different times? Okay, so this is going to be one of the answers. One of the answers, and that's actually the first answer, is what you're saying. Amar Rabbi Oshaya says, Amar Rabbi Yacha, quoting Rabbi Yacha, Hachika Amar David. Okay, this is what David is saying. Me'olam, and this is also going to perhaps what Kevin was saying before. Me'olam lo avar alai chatzot laila b'shena. I never woke up later than midnight, which means he was waking up at different times every night. Sometimes he would get up at the beginning of the night. Sounds like he would take a power nap at the end of the day. Night, he would wake up. Sometimes he would sleep for an hour, sometimes for 2, but he never overslept past midnight. So when he says, I get up at midnight, that's, if you look at your phone and you have those alarms and you have the 6:05, and then you have the 7, and you have the 7:45, then you have your Sunday version. You have your what time's your Sunday? 7:45 is your Sunday. Okay, so you're not a melech. You're not a melech. So then David Hamelech saying is the latest alarm that I have is midnight. So that's exactly what you're saying. This is how Rav Oshaya deals with these two psukim. In one pasuk, David Hamelech says, "I get up at the beginning of the night." The other one, he says, "I get up in the middle of the night." Rav Oshaya says, "You know why? He would get up sometime between them, either at the beginning of the night, but he would never get up later than the middle of the night." David Hamelech was up in the middle of the night. Unbelievable. I have some people, they wake up in the morning, all of a sudden I get text messages from someone at 4 a.m. Like, what were you doing? All of a sudden at 3 a.m. all of the messages come. It's like David Hamelech. David Hamelech, you should say them. You could ask him, did you see David last night? Okay, let's keep going.
Sorry.
There's 3 opinions. Let's get to the 3 opinions, then we'll pause for questions, okay? Second answer. So answer number one is, I would wake up at the beginning of the night, which means he really wouldn't sleep much, but I would sometimes sleep until midnight. That was the latest time I would get up. That's answer number 1. Rabbi Zera, answer number 2. The first half of the night until midnight, he was sleeping like a horse. What does it mean to be sleeping like a horse? It means it was not a deep sleep. It was a very light sleep. Apparently, horses have these they just sleep through spells of like 3 minutes. They just doze up for 3 minutes and they're off. This is how horses sleep. The sus sleeps broken up, dozing on and off, dozing on and off. So for the first half of the night, he would be dozing on and off. And Rashi says, while he was studying Torah, he would study Torah, he would doze off, he would wake up, study Torah, doze off. I know a lot of people like this. This is what he would do for the first half of the night. He was studying Torah the entire time, but he would doze off here or there. Mikan ve'elach, but starting at midnight, he would get up like a lion. No more dozing off, no more horsing around, only lying around. And at this time, he was up for good. Okay, the first half of the night, he was sleeping on and off, studying Torah. So that's what it means. So
when did he actually sleep?
That first half, he never had a full night's sleep. David Hamelech never had a full night's sleep. According to this opinion, he would sleep for 3 minutes, for 4 minutes, for 3 minutes, for 30 minutes, for a half hour here or there in the first half of the night. He wouldn't sleep, David Hamelech. That's the answer number 2. I'm going to get to answer number 3. I'll show you the chart, then we'll open up for questions. Rav Hashem, our answer number 3, he would never sleep. Ad chatzot laila haya osek b'divrei Torah. He would get up in the first half of the night, and until midnight he was studying Torah, osek b'Torah. Torah, he was studying the books of Tanakh, let's say, or mikan va'elach b'shirot tishbachot. The second half of the night, he would get up to sing his tehillim, to sing his praises. So, in other words, maybe this is going back to what Kevin was saying. He's not even talking about sleep here. What he's saying is the first half of the night, I would be studying Torah. When he says, I get up at the beginning of the night, because he would be getting up and studying Torah. And when he says, I get up at midnight, what he's talking about is that's when I would change my subject and start writing the books of Tehillim and start singing the songs. David Hamelech is basically saying that he had his Seder Hayom. The first half of the night he would study Torah. Seder Halayla. Very good. Seder Halayla. So now let me show you the chart, then we'll pause for some questions. Chart. And I know there's questions, and I'm going to get to them. Here we go. Chart. Boom. What time did David wake up? Staying with my green theme. So time, start of the evening or midnight? Okay, you see what I'm trying to do here? I have a chart here. What time did David wake up? One pasuk. So what's the source? I arise at Neshef, which so far we said means the start of the evening. Okay, we're going to challenge that. And we're going to go back to what I was saying. But for now, let's go with it. Let's stipulate Neshef means the beginning of the evening. So in chapter 119, line 147, he says, I wake up at Neshef at the beginning of the evening, start of the evening. The same chapter of Tehillim, a couple lines before, he says, I get up at midnight. So, did he get up at the beginning of the evening, or did he wake up at midnight? So what Rabbi Oshaya says, look, he was usually awake from the beginning of the night, but sometimes he wasn't. But he never slept past midnight, okay? That was his final alarm, for sure he would be up at midnight. Let me go through the chart, and then I'll open up for questions. This is the first opinion of Rabbi Oshaya. Rabbi Zera is the second opinion. The first, starting from the beginning of the night, he would doze off, he would sleep, but he would sleep like a horse. Which there's different opinions of how long it is. One opinion says it's 60 seconds, one opinion says it's 3 minutes, one opinion says 30 minutes. Pick whichever one you want, or go to your local farm and ask the guy if you can watch him sleep. But this is what basically the horse doesn't sleep a full night. Whereas at midnight, he would become like a lion. Second reference to a lion on the daf, by the way. Once Hashem was a lion, now David Hamelech is a lion on the same page. Okay? That's the second reference to lion. Third opinion is the opinion of Rav Hashem. He was studying Torah until midnight, and then he was singing praises like Tehillim for the second half of the night, starting from midnight. So when he says, I arise at midnight, what he really means is, I arise from the subject of the Torah, and I move on to the next subject of Tehillim. Okay? With that, I'll pause. I know there's a lot of questions. Yes?
Sorry, I'm a little confused because I thought we previously learned that when we were talking about whether there are 3 watches or 4 watches, we were saying that King David would wake up 2 hours or 3 hours from the beginning, from like the start of the morning, right? Whether that implies
Other kings would wake up in the 3rd hour of the day.
okay, but
He would wake up at midnight. That was what the source was. David Hamelech wakes up at midnight. Other kings are waking up 2 hours, 3 hours into the day, which means he's waking up 8 hours before other kings, which according to Rabbi Natan, that's 2 ashmurot. That was his rebuttal of the proof that Rabbi Natan said. He was not sleeping into the 2nd hour of the day. Other kings were. David Hamelech is getting up at midnight.
But now we're just really discussing what is actually waking up of David Hamelech.
Correct.
He's not even sleep. It's waking up. It's really
Correct. So everyone agrees that at midnight he was up and running. The question is the first half of the night. According to the first opinion, is sometimes he was asleep, sometimes he wasn't. The second one says no, he's sleeping, but he's sleeping like a horse. The last one says he's not even sleeping. According to Rav Hashem, when was he sleeping? I really don't know. Maybe during the day, but he doesn't tell us when he was sleeping. What? Superhuman. I mean, you gotta sleep. Elon, you got a question?
Yeah, just kind of like what I was saying before, that you woke up twice. If you're saying you woke up the Neshef, and that's before midnight, then you woke up at midnight, then that kind of proves that the ashmurot part of that is basically talking about the first.
Right. So now you're actually going back. Very nice. Very nice. You now can take that entire proof and throw it out because he actually got up at the beginning of the night. So he's up. Oh, very good. So, very nice. Very nice. So now the proof that Rabbi Yehuda Nasi had, you can just rebuttal it a second way. Wow, 2 against 1. Okay, very good, Elon. Very, very sharp point. Okay, Elon is saying, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said there are 4 ashmurot in the night. How do I know there are 4 ashmurot in the night? Because he says I wake up before ashmurot. And it also says I wake up at midnight. If he wakes up at midnight and he wakes up before ashmurot, that must mean that there are 2 ashmurot after midnight. So there got to be 2 before midnight. Rabbi Yehuda Nasi says, so there's 4 ashmurot. Elon says, no. Why are you saying that there's 2 ashmurot after midnight? There's 2 ashmurot, there's multiple ashmurot in the night, and he's getting up at the beginning of the night. So even though he's getting up at midnight, he's also getting up at the beginning of the night. So he's throwing out Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's proof from left field, and Rabbi Natan didn't even think of that. Very nice. I like it. I like it a lot. I'm sure someone has to say that because it's the iron. It's very, very nice. Yeah, we'll look it up. I'll see if anyone says it. Beautiful, beautiful. Okay, good. Yes, question?
Going back to the word Neshef, right? So it says David says I arise at Neshef.
Yes.
And then the pasuk says Neshef be'eren. Maybe I'm
Be'eren.
translating it wrong, but wouldn't that mean the Neshef, like, in the evening, meaning like there could be a Neshef like other times of the day, like.
Yes, absolutely.
So when he just says the Neshef, could it be the Neshef in the morning?
Okay, very good. So Josh, is now you're challenging. Like, remember, as I said, I arise at Neshef. We're now explaining that to mean the start of the evening, and I said, let's stipulate that that's correct. Okay, but now that we're done with that, we're gonna go challenge that. Does Neshef actually mean that? And I already gave you the precursor. The word Neshef doesn't mean evening. The word Neshef means the blowing of, which is the end of. So it could be the end of the day, but it could be the end of the night also, right? So that's the next couple lines of the Gemara. Okay, if we're good, we're gonna go to that. Okay. Oh, we have a chat comment. This is at 9:33. Do we know how long Hashem cries for during the different watches? No, we don't know how long he cries for. It says that for each mishmar he would cry. I don't think we have an idea of how long he would cry for. It just says that he would cry at each one. Maybe it's an instant, maybe longer. It's a good question, Cody, but I don't think we were. I don't think we got that to that.
What is the crying for?
This is the last stop. The Beit Hamelech. Were you here last time? Rama, you gotta watch the videos. So you call me out, I'm calling you out. Okay? You gotta watch the videos. Okay, we got each other's back. I know. Guys, I have to say, one time, Rama was giving me a very hard time. The next morning, I saw him at Shacharit, and he apologized. But then I told him, look, you're making me. This is what's gonna make me push me to become a Talmid Chacham. So I don't want you to let off the gas. I want you to keep going. But I hope you could, if you could dish it, I hope you could take it. All right? I need you to watch. Okay, very good. We did this last year that he was crying that Hashem is so sad that he doesn't have the Beit HaMikdash. He wants the Beit HaMikdash. He destroyed it because of the way we were acting, but he doesn't want the Beit HaMikdash to be destroyed. This is what we say. Hashem cries 3 times a night, wishing and praying that we could have the Beit HaMikdash again. But his hands are quote unquote tied because of how we were acting. Okay, good. Okay, so I gave you your answer anyway, but I just wanted to have some fun. Okay, good. We're ready to move on. Let's go ahead and let's learn about Neshef. Here we go. Josh Abrani asks, the Neshef Urtahu, is Neshef really the evening? Ha Neshef Sefrahu. I actually think it's the morning. Why do I think it's the morning? Dichtiv, because we were learning everything about David Hamelech. This is now the 4th book of Tanakh, 5th book of we quoted Shoftim, we quoted Tehillim, we quoted Mishle, and now we're quoting Shmuel. 4th book of Tanakh. Look at that. This is a real yeshiva bacher learns Tanakh through Gemara. Hey, you're learning Gemara, you're learning Tanakh. Okay, so we learn 1 page of Gemara, but we learn 4 books of Tanakh. So what does it say in the book of Tanakh? It says as following: Dichtiv, in the book of Shmuel, Vayakem David. David went to war, and it says, and he struck the enemy mehaneshef v'ad ha'erev, from the Neshef to the evening, the Macharotam on the next day. From the Neshef to the night. What is it talking about? Morning to night. That's what it sounds like. David Hamelech fought them from the Neshef to the night. It sounds like from the morning to the night. You want to tell me it means from the night? So then what would it mean from the night to the night? So the Gemara first asks, my love, Mitzafra ad Lelia, doesn't mean that David Hamelech fought the enemy from morning to night? The Gemara says, lo, me'urta ad urta. It means from night to night. He fought them from night to night. So the Gemara says, okay, you want to go with that approach that Neshef means evening. And it says, when it says David Hamelech struck the enemy from Neshef to night, you're going to tell me it means from night to night. Okay, if that's the case, lichtov me'an Neshef ad Neshef. So either right, from Neshef to Neshef, which means from night to night, or me'arev ad erev, from evening to evening. Why do you say me'an Neshef ad erev, which is talking about the same time period, just 24 hours later? Why would you say that? Now we get to the source of what Neshef actually means. There are 2 Neshefs. Remember, I told you the word Neshef means to blow, which means the end of something ending. Nashaf lelia ve'ati yemama. The night departs and the day comes. Nashaf yemama ve'ati lelia. The day departs, and the night comes. In other words, Neshef is the transitory period. when it changes from either night to day or from day to night, which means either the beginning of the day. No, oh well, Ben Hashmashot is talking about a specific time period. This is talking about a moment. Is the moment when night ends and day begins, which essentially means the beginning of the day, or it's the moment when the day ends and the night begins, which is essentially the beginning of the night. Neshef could mean one of these two things. So when you see someone, instead of saying Boker Tov or Laila Tov, you could just say Neshef Tov. Just say Neshef Tov, no matter what you're covered. The person has no idea what you're saying, they're going to smile, and you're going to be right no matter what.
The answer was in the pasuk. Continuing the pasuk, it says Nemacharta. It's already, it's one whole day.
The Macharata means the next day. Very good. So you could say it's talking about from night to night, from the following night. Very good.
But sorry, but that doesn't really answer why it's two words, why it's Nefesh and Erev. Like how come they didn't stick with one word?
So, okay, yeah, you're right. You're right. So it sounds like in that pasuk, it means day. And that's what he wants to say. What he wants to say is in the pasuk of David Hamelech going to war, it means Neshef means day. Because if it meant night, it would have used the same word. Since it means Neshef, it means day. But that doesn't take away from the fact that David Hamelech says, when I wake up at Neshef, it means Neshef be'erev yom, it means the beginning of the day, beginning of the night. The main thing that they say is that why would David Hamelech be so proud of waking up at the beginning of the day? Everyone does that. So that's why they say Neshef for David Hamelech, when he says he's waking up, means the beginning of the night. Whereas when he went to war, it means the beginning of the day, because otherwise it would have used the same word. Okay?
Rabbi, sorry, can you say it's a twilight?
Okay, so that's exactly what some people said here. Twilight, let me just give a explanation. Twilight, as we explained, is the time between the actual sun,
The rays of the sun breaking into
the sun, let's say when the sun is going down. When you see the ball of the sun go down, that's called sunset. After that, you still see light for some period of time. That period of time that you still see light is called twilight, because you still see some light. That's called Ben Hashmashot. And then when you no longer see light, that's called Tzete Kochavim. So it's a time period. Ben Hashmashot is a time period where you see the light, but you don't see the sun. You have the same thing in the morning. Correct. Dusk is when you start seeing the rays of the sun, but you don't see the sun. Then when the sun rises, it's called Netzach Hama. That's called twilight. So twilight is a time period where you see the light from the sun without seeing the sun. Whereas Neshef, what we're saying is it's really that moment that the night ends and the day begins. Now, I guess we're talking about similar.
End of twilight.
Correct. End of twilight. Very, very good. Neshef, as we're explaining now, means the end of twilight. Exactly. That's or the beginning if it's a safek, but it's one of those endpoints. It's one of those.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Question?
Yeah, question. Would it make sense to say that this pasuk of King David is talking about King David fighting from the morning until, and then it says the Mar so not that night to come, but rather the following.
So now you're saying he fought for 36 hours.
Yeah.
Potentially, it could be. I think the main point of why we're quoting this is to say Neshef is talking about in the morning. You could explain that means 36 hours later. Yeah, question? No? No questions? Okay, let's see what time it is. 9:42. Okay. I'm just going to give you a preview for what we're going to do next time. Preview is as follows. So I'll tell you exactly where we're going to leave off right now. We're going to leave off, if you're looking in the art scroll of the Ati Lelia, if you want to, why are you asking? Because you want to review it?
Yeah, I just want to make a mark.
Okay, very good. So it's on page, we're finishing on 3B3. There's a break on the right side. All right, so Rabbi tells us there's two nishpei, there's two nashaf. It's talking about that transition period. Now the next thing we're going to do, and I'm going to leave you off with this because we're going to give you 3 answers. Okay, if you're saying David Hamelech wakes up at midnight, we're going to take that extremely literally. And if we take that extremely literally, that means he's waking up exactly in the middle of the night, which means he knew how to calculate, or he knew exactly when was the middle of the night. There's a problem with that. The problem is in the Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu in the book of Shemot. We're now getting to our 5th book of Tanakh. Look at that, Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu is telling Paro and the Egyptians when Makat Bechorot will happen. Very good, Mr. Levian. He says when the plague of the firstborns will strike, and he tells Paro, and he says tomorrow night, Hachatzot halayla, at around midnight, every firstborn, every home's going to have a dead firstborn. So now, the assumption here is that Kachatzot is Moshe Rabbeinu giving a range and saying around midnight. Why? The Gemara is going to ask this question. It says he didn't know in the exact moment of midnight. He had to know exactly what time is sunset, exactly what time is sunrise. It's not okay. He knows approximately. So Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't know when midnight is, but David Hamelech is waking up at the strike of midnight. How can it be David Hamelech knew when midnight was and Moshe Rabbeinu didn't know? And you know what the Gemara is going to do? It's going to give us 3 answers. Okay? I hope you had a good cliffhanger. Next week, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to speak about the 3 answers between Moshe Rabbeinu and David Hamelech. Okay? Hazak Baruch. We'll stop there. Hazak Baruch.